Good morning, everyone. I am Queen Von Tilapina. Together with Shira May Galandes, we were going to discuss the cellular metabolism today. So here is the outline of the lesson. The cellular metabolism, metabolic process, the ATP, ADP, and the enzymes, and the cellular respiration. Whenever we eat, all the biomolecules in the form of protein and fats are all digested and converted into simplest form into biochemicals. Now, during this process, energy is released and in the form of ATP or the adenosine triphosphate. Nitrogen, carbon dioxide, phosphate, and sulfate, as can you see in the illustration, these materials is exerted outside the body. So these biochemicals has important role in our body for helping our enzymes, hormones, hair and nails, and our receptors. So we can see that what we eat changes from one form to another. In Greek language, the word changes means metabolismos. The new term came into the existence of science called metabolism that can be referred to as the biochemical reactions occurring in a cell or throughout the body. And this interconnected to the network of reactions called metabolic pathways. But first, let's define cellular metabolism. Cellular metabolism is the series of processes that takes place in living organisms to sustain those in organism. So this happened on our mitochondrion inside the cell or in cytoplasm for prokaryotic cell. So the set of chemical reactions that occur in living organism in order to maintain life. These allow organisms to grow and reproduce, maintain their structures, and respond to environmental changes. The first category of the metabolic pathway is the catabolic reaction. This happens during when the large molecules are broken down into smaller ones, as you can see in the images, and then the anabolic reaction where it involved the joining of smaller molecules into larger ones. In catabolism, we always be reminded that the energy is released during this process where that energy is called ATP, where protein turn into amino acids and lipids and turn into fatty acids. And then in anabolism, energy is consumed. For example, in anabolism is the keratin from the amino acids. So next, the control of metabolism reactions. So what do you think control the process and how the metabolism happen? ATP plays a very important role, or the adenosine triphosphate that is known as the charged state. ADP, the adenosine diphosphate or the flat state, a combined phosphate to form ATP. So how this happen? So look at the picture. Here is the process on how ATP and ADP cycle. So it is a nucleotide consisting of sugar, ribose base, adenine, and 3-phosphate group. ATP contains chemical energy in the bonds of its phosphate group so that when a band is broken and the phosphate ion is released from ATP, energy is released along with it the molecule that remains adenosine diphosphate or the ADP. So energy released along the molecule. And this ADP or the adenosine diphosphate, a form of evaded cellular respiration to form ATP, where molecules of ATP and ADP cycle within cells donating and receiving phosphate ions as they move between catabolism and anabolism process. What I mean with energy is that the enzymes are the protein that help speed up metabolism or chemical reactions in our body. So it helps control the rates of all metabolic reactions, and that happen through the catabolic and anabolic process. So there are also the factors that alter enzymes. Here in the images, you can see that enzyme activity can be affected with a variety of factors. Enzymes work best within the specific temperature and pH ranges, and suboptimal conditions that can cause an enzyme to lose its ability to bind. I do hope that you can also recall the lessons of how the process of enzymes happen. So cellular metabolism happen on different organisms. So for plants, it is called as the photosynthesis that occur specifically on the chloroplast. Since it is the light-dependent process, Calvin cycle occurs where the light-dependent of stage photosynthesis. The rubisco is what catalyzes the entry of carbon dioxide into the photosynthetic metabolism. The process by which inorganic carbon is added to organic molecule referred to carbon fixation. And then it takes more than or 6 turn cycle repetition to make one molecule of glucose. The next is the cellular respiration. It is a type of metabolism pathway that breaks down glucose to make ATP or adenosine triphosphate that will be further discussed by my co-reporter, Shara May.
Cell metabolism. Cellular respiration, a type of metabolic pathway that breaks down glucose to make adenosine triphosphate or ATP. The main steps of cellular respiration in eukaryotes are glycolysis, pyruvate oxidation, citric acid or Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. Process 1. Glycolysis. Glycolysis is the cell breakdown glucose in the cytoplasm with or without oxygen being present into two molecules of pyruvate to produce energy. Pyruvate oxidation, the conversion of pyruvate into acetyl-CoA by the enzyme complex pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. The pyruvate enter the mitochondrial matrix and become coenzyme A or acetyl-CoA. This releases carbon dioxide and makes more NADH. Krebs cycle. A series of chemical reactions are used by all aerobic organisms in their energy conversion processes. Acetyl-CoA combines with oxaloacetate to make citrate, then citrate goes through reactions to make carbon dioxide and NADH. The cycle also makes FADH2 and ATP. Oxidative phosphorylation. The electron transport chain plays a crucial role. NADH and FADH2 give electrons to the electron transport chain and become NAD plus and FAD. The electrons move down this chain and make ATP. These processes also produce water. Metabolism in prokaryotes. Aerobic, oxygen requiring, or anaerobic or non-oxygen-based metabolism, and some can switch between these modes. In prokaryotic cells, all the metabolic pathways occur in the cytoplasm except for chemiosmosis and oxidative phosphorylation, which occur in the plasma membrane. Lactic acid fermentation, type of anaerobic reaction that produces energy for bacteria. Your muscle cells also have lactic acid fermentation. During this process, the cells make ATP without any oxygen through glycolysis. The process turns pyruvate into lactic acid and makes NAD plus and ATP. There are two general types of metabolic reactions. Number 1 is anabolic RxNS or biosynthetic RxNS, which is building stuff. Number 2 is the catabolic RxNS, which is breaking stuff down. How is prokaryotic metabolism different from eukaryotic metabolism? prokaryote versus eukaryote. Although their processes are different, they both either use or create energy. Cellular respiration is the most common pathways seen in cells. However, some prokaryotes have different metabolic pathways that are unique. Organisms need carbon for building cells and energy to fuel the process. Eukaryotes, in general, all follow the same basic metabolic pathways, whereas prokaryotes use a variety of materials and pathways, some employed by no other organisms. What happens after cellular metabolism? The breaking down of complex organic molecules occurs via catabolic pathways and usually involves the release of energy. Through catabolic pathways, polymers such as proteins, nucleic acid, polysaccharides are reduced to their constituent parts, amino acids, nucleotides, and sugars, respectively. What is the major end product of cellular metabolism? Metabolism. Goes in oxygen. Goes out carbon dioxide. Goes in water. Goes out sweat and breath and urine. While the dry food, it goes out feces. Lastly, it goes in chemical energy and it goes out heat. Conclusion. Cell metabolism is a network of biochemical reactions transforming metabolites to fulfill biological functions. At the core of this biochemical network, there are catabolic pathways that break down molecules to generate energy, which is then used to fuel biosynthetic processes and to do a mechanical work.